Ooh, shit. All right, peace and blessings, family. I want to come on here real quick tonight because I just got finished watching this film called Facing Ali. Okay, family. So I'm one of those people who, ever since I can remember, I always like watching films, documentaries in particular, because always learn so much when you watch a documentary. But in particular, this documentary really touched me because, first of all, I am forever a student of history. It's important for me to know what happened before me, so I'm not just making brash decisions off of what I'm feeling right now or my small piece of what I think I know by the time in which I'm standing in. But this film, Facing Ali, really it says something about a person when your adversary has his opinion and views of how they see you, but also the backdrop. Like listening to this one gentleman's name, I should have been taking some notes, but there was a gentleman when he spoke of Ali, he talked like how much Ali had did for black people in terms of the imagery and putting his title on the line. It's very different. It also showed me how dead some of us were, or how some of us were just trying to the traumatic experience of the South and of Jim Crow and racism really held us hostage in being able to be free. And I think Ali embarking on his journey, because this is the story being told by people who fought him and their background and how they became boxing, their relationship with Ali, what they thought about him, his boxing skill. Excuse me, it's a very good movie. Like, I just felt like just so moved when I watch it, hearing all of the backstories, hearing what Muhammad Ali did for certain boxers, and knowing that maybe he boxed too long, like he should have left. They said after the Frazier fight, but he kept going. I think it's very important to know the journey of your ancestors and what they did and how they did it and why they did it. I don't know. I feel like even George Foreman, when he spoke of him, um, it was just very moving. The film was called Facing Ali. Facing Ali. I watched it on, I think it's Tubi. Excuse me. I'm going to check to see if it's on Netflix as well. But it was such a good film. And I was so moved as I was watching it. I mean, I knew Muhammad Ali was a great man. I think that people invest a lot of things into people, but I think it is the person who absolutely take all of their experience and lessons and knowledge from people, and then they have to make their way alone. Because when he was fighting, he was in that ring alone. When he was making some of those choices, he was making them alone. But he knew that his choices were going to affect other people, and in this particular time frame, it was going to affect black people. And I think we have never had a champion like that since, to be very honest with you. For me, I'm very nostalgic when it comes to the 70s because I grew up in that era. I mean, I was a young girl in that era, and I was such impressions made. And it was a time where black folks were discovering, some of us were discovering our African origins and trying to redefine ourselves and define ourselves for ourselves, of course. And it also happened to fight against people who did not want you to be who you were because they were okay with what this society and being enslaved and descendants of enslaved people had made us to be. And so to watch people basically, just talked about him changing his name and how they felt about that. And I thought to myself, wow, why couldn't you just respect him as a white man and just call his ass Muhammad? Like, it was just so telling. It was so telling. But also, it was really awesome just to hear the stories, like when Ken Norton got in that accident and how Muhammad Ali came to see him, or Leon Spinks. Leon Spinks was so funny to me. Oh my goodness. His piece, because it's the way he talked, he just felt like a real homeboy. But he also talked about what Muhammad Ali did for him. And then he also talked about, after winning that championship, how lost he felt as a human being. See, that was deep for me. Because usually when people, have a great triumph like that, and even if they are lost, they kind of won't say it. They'll be putting it on other people. And so he listened to all them dudes speak. It was just like the elders. Listen to Joe Frazier talk about him. I mean, they had all kind of folks I never even heard of before, talk about him. And so If you haven't seen this film, it's called Facing Ali. You gotta watch it because there's all of these backstories to the fighting. Ken Norton talked about Muhammad Ali basically gave him a chance. I kept hearing this word that he gave me a chance. He gave me a chance, and to me that was just very telling. Just giving a chance, and I could so relate to those particular words when someone gives you a chance. He talked about, uh, uh, when he was divorced, it was like the lowest time of his life, and he had to fend for him and his son after his marriage, and just how it allowed him to put food on the table, and just this admiration. And I think sometimes when we talk about our elders, we don't understand that part of their struggle. So it's great to watch the fights. Ali was definitely entertaining and all of that kind of stuff. But there is something about when you see the world and because he wasn't like the smartest dude. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't like college whatever, but he could teach a bunch of college people some stuff. He could teach a lot of us who think we know something some stuff in terms of living and what he was willing to put on the line. So he was still fighting like he didn't have those years taken away, because he wouldn't go into the army. He was fighting against that draft. So anyway, if you haven't seen the movie, I know it's kind of late, so I'm just excuse me, just jumping on really quick before I go to bed. Please watch. Excuse me. Please watch Facing Ali. Great film. It definitely thought provoking, and it's just we some of us were lucky enough to live in a time of people like Ali and the examples and how he really loved black folks and how he put it on the line for us. You don't really see that today. That's why I don't like it when people compare themselves to Ali, because there is no comparison. So watch Facing Ali. Y'all have a good night. Peace and blessings, family.